Patrick, how can you be alive? You are dead. We buried you.
I'm sorry, do I know you?
Pamela didn't plan to make a scene. Not on her first day. Not in a company this big. But the moment the boardroom door swung open, everything in her chest froze. The room went quiet in that strange way it does when someone important walks in. Expensive perfume, leather chairs, bright screen on the wall showing company numbers. And then he entered, tall, clean haircut, trimmed beard, navy blue suit that looked like it cost more than Pamela's entire life savings. The staff stood up at once. "Good morning, sir," they said together. Pamela tried to stand too, but her legs didn't listen, because the face she was seeing was a face she knew, a face she buried. Her eyes opened wide. Her left hand flew to her mouth without thinking. Her right hand lifted slowly, shaking, pointing like her finger had a mind of its own. "P. Patrick?" The CEO paused. His eyes moved across the room like he was scanning, calm and controlled. Then his gaze landed on her. Pamela couldn't breathe properly. The air felt too hot, too heavy. Her voice came out broken, like a whisper that turned into a shout halfway. "Patrick? You're alive?" The room snapped. People turned their heads fast. One woman near the window gasped and covered her mouth. A man holding a tablet almost dropped it. The CEO frowned. "Excuse me?" he asked, slow and careful. Pamela shook her head quickly, like maybe the world would change back if she blinked enough. But it didn't. He was still there, still looking at her. Still, "Patrick." She took one small step forward. Her voice became louder. Not because she wanted it to, but because the shock was pushing it out. "You're the CEO of this company that just hired me?" Someone whispered, "What is she talking about?" Another person whispered back, "Is she okay?" Pamela's chest rose and fell quickly. Her eyes were already wet. "Patrick," she said again, softer now. "It's me." The CEO's jaw tightened. He looked confused, like someone had just spoken to him in a language he didn't understand. "I don't know you," he said. That sentence hit Pamela like a slap. She laughed once, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind that comes out when your brain can't accept reality. "You don't know me?" she repeated. "Patrick, it's me, Pamela." The CEO's eyes narrowed a little. Pamela's voice cracked. "I'm your twin sister." The boardroom became silent. Even the board members looked uncomfortable now. Pamela swallowed, and then she said the sentence that made the room feel like it was spinning. "You died. We buried you 10 years ago." One of the executives muttered, "God." The CEO took one step back, just one, but his face changed slightly, like something inside him moved, like a door in his mind shook but didn't fully open. He stared at Pamela, not angry, not laughing, just disturbed. 10 years ago?" he repeated slowly. Pamela nodded hard. "Yes, you and our parents. You entered that bus." "Stop," the CEO said suddenly. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried power. Everyone went silent again. He looked around the room, then back at Pamela. "Come with me," he said. Pamela's lips parted. "What?" "Now," he said, firm. "My office." The HR woman tried to speak. "Sir, today is her first day." "I said my office," he repeated, and that ended it. Pamela's knees still felt weak, but she forced herself to walk. As she passed the staff, she heard small whispers chasing her like shadows. Did she just call him her dead twin? Is this some prank? Why is the CEO's face like that? Pamela didn't answer anybody. She just followed him. because in her head only one thought was screaming, "If this is really Patrick, then who did we bury?" Inside the CEO's office, the door shut softly behind them. It was a massive space, glass walls, Lagos skyline visible, the kind of office Pamela had only seen in movies. The CEO walked to his desk, then stopped. He didn't sit. Pamela didn't sit either. She stood there, breathing, like she had run a race. The CEO stared at her for a long moment. Then he spoke quietly. "Say it again," he said. "What you said out there." Pamela swallowed. Her voice was smaller now. "Patrick, you're my twin brother." He shook his head slowly, almost like he was fighting it. "I don't have a twin," he said. Pamela stepped forward, desperate. "You do. You do. We look the same. Even your left eyebrow has that tiny cut. You got it when we were kids. When you fell from that mango tree behind our compound." The CEO's fingers twitched. Pamela noticed it. His face stayed serious, but his eyes looked slightly lost. Pamela continued, rushing now, afraid he might throw her out. "We were 17, the three of you, Dad, Mum. You entered that night bus from Benin to Lagos. I begged Mum not to go. She said we needed to see Grandma, and you followed them. And then..." Pamela stopped. Her throat tightened. The CEO's voice was low. "And then what?" Pamela forced the words out. "The accident happened." She paused, and her eyes filled fully. "Only Mum and Dad were found alive at first, but they died later in the hospital." The CEO's face hardened, but his eyes stayed fixed on her. Pamela wiped tears quickly, like she was ashamed to cry in front of him. "Patrick, you were never found. The bus burnt. People burnt. Some bodies couldn't be identified." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "So they said you must be among them." The CEO's breath changed, just slightly. Pamela saw it. He leaned forward a bit, like he was trying to hear her better. "So, you buried me," he said. Pamela nodded. "An empty casket," she admitted. "But we did it because everyone pressured me. They said I should let you rest. They said it was closure." Her voice broke again, but I never believed it fully. Never. I used to dream that you were somewhere, alive, calling my name. The CEO stared at her like he was trying to match her words to something inside his head. Then he asked, very softly, "What happened to you after?" Pamela hesitated. This was the part she didn't like to say out loud, but she said it anyway. "Life happened to me," she whispered. Then she laughed again, small, bitter. "Life beat me." The CEO's jaw tightened. Pamela looked down at her hands. "I struggled alone," she said. "I became everything at once. Daughter, orphan, adult, breadwinner." She lifted her eyes back up, tears shining. "And I carried your name with me like a wound." The CEO swallowed. His voice came out rougher now. "And how did you end up here?" Pamela inhaled. "I've been looking for a job since graduation. I tried so hard, but I had no one. No father to call anybody, no uncle to recommend me, nothing." She paused, and then, one day, I got an email. "Interview invitation, Patrick Company." She laughed again, shaking her head like the irony still hurt. "I even said the name out loud that night, and I cried because it felt like you were mocking me from the grave." The CEO's eyes didn't leave her face. Pamela took a shaky breath and continued. "Today was my first day, assistant accountant. And then you walked in and I saw you and I lost control. The CEO slowly moved behind his desk. He finally sat down, but he didn't look relaxed. He looked like a man sitting down because his body didn't know what else to do. Pamela waited. The room was quiet. Then he asked one question that made Pamela's heart stop again. "What is my full name?" he asked. Pamela blinked. "What? My name," he said carefully. "The name I had before." Pamela's lips trembled, and she answered slowly, clearly, like she was placing a truth on a table. "Patrick Adeyemi." The CEO's eyes widened, just for a second. Then his face went still again. He stared at the wall behind Pamela like he was seeing something else. Something far away. Pamela whispered, "You remember?" He didn't answer immediately. His hands gripped the arm of his chair. His voice came out low, almost frightened. "I don't know why, but that name just..." He paused. "Hit something in my head." Pamela leaned forward. "Patrick?" He looked up at her, and for the first time, his eyes looked wet. Not crying yet, but close. "I need you to tell me everything," he said. "Everything you know, every detail, from the beginning." Pamela nodded quickly. Yes, I will." He inhaled sharply. Then he said something that made Pamela's stomach twist. "And after you finish..." He paused. His voice dropped. "I will tell you what I remember." Pamela's throat went dry because she suddenly realized something. If Patrick really lost his memory, then somebody else may know what happened that night. Somebody else may have kept him. Somebody else may have lied. Pamela's hands started shaking again, and before she could stop herself, she whispered, "Patrick, who were you living with all this time?" The CEO stared at her. Then he slowly reached into a drawer and brought out a small worn envelope. He held it like it was dangerous. His voice was quiet. "Because someone sent this to me yesterday," he said. Pamela frowned. "What is that?" He swallowed. And then he said, "It's a picture from that accident." Pamela froze. The envelope trembled slightly in his hand. He looked at her, eyes full of fear and confusion. "And behind the picture," he whispered, "there's a message." Pamela's voice was barely there. "What message?" Patrick turned the envelope around. "And read it slowly. If you ever remember who you are, you will die for real this time." Pamela's heart dropped. The room went cold, and Patrick looked up at her and whispered, "Pamela, who wants me dead?" The office felt smaller now, like the walls had moved closer. Pamela couldn't take her eyes off the envelope in Patrick's hand. "Read it again," she whispered. Patrick shook his head slowly. "No, I don't want to." His voice was different now, less CEO, more human. Pamela stepped closer to the desk. "Patrick, who sent it?" "I don't know." He turned the picture toward her. Her breath caught. It was an old newspaper clipping, burnt at the edges, a bus accident headline. She recognized it instantly. "Benin-Lagos night bus tragedy. 3-2 feared dead." Her fingers trembled as she touched the photo. "That's the bus," she whispered. Patrick watched her face carefully. "I received this yesterday morning," he said. "No sender, no address, just this envelope on my desk." Pamela looked up quickly. "On your desk? Inside the building?" "Yes, but security. I checked the cameras." He cut in. "And?" He hesitated. That section of the hallway went blank for exactly 3 minutes. Pamela's stomach dropped. 3 minutes. Just enough time. Patrick leaned back in his chair. "I've built this company for years," he said slowly. Patrick Technologies didn't become one of the fastest growing tech firms in West Africa by accident. We handle high-level contracts, government software, private data systems. Pamela swallowed. You think this is business rivalry? I don't know what to think. There was a pause. The Lagos skyline outside the glass walls looked too normal. Cars moving, people walking, like the world didn't know something dangerous had just woken up. Pamela cleared her throat. You said you would tell me what you remember. Patrick nodded slowly. He stood up and walked toward the window. I remember waking up in a small hut. Pamela blinked. Oh, hut. Yes, somewhere rural. I didn't know where I was. My head hurt. I couldn't remember my name. He touched his temple lightly. There was a farmer, an old man. He told me he found me near a road days after a fire. Pamela's heart started beating fast. A fire. Patrick nodded. He said I was barely breathing. Burnt clothes. No ID. Pamela covered her mouth again. Oh my God. He called me son because I couldn't tell him my name. Patrick's voice softened. He was kind, poor, very poor, but kind. Pamela listened carefully, like every word was gold. He kept me for a while. I don't know how long, weeks maybe. Then a wealthy man came to the village. Pamela frowned. Why? Patrick turned to face her. I asked the same question later. The farmer said the man often visited the village to help with donations, farming equipment, scholarships. Pamela felt something shift inside her. And that man? He noticed me, Patrick said quietly, saw the scars on my back, asked questions. When he realized I had no memory, no family looking for me, he offered to adopt me. Pamela's brows pulled together, just like that. Patrick nodded once. The farmer agreed. He said the city would give me a better future. Pamela walked slowly toward him. What was his name? Patrick hesitated, then said it clearly. Chief Daniel Lawson. Pamela froze. The name sounded powerful. He was rich, Patrick continued. Extremely. He had no children. He trained me like his own son, sent me to the best schools, taught me business from scratch. And when he died? Pamela asked softly. 2 years ago. Patrick's jaw tightened. I inherited everything. The room went quiet again. Pamela's mind was racing. You never questioned it? She asked gently. Where you came from? I did, he replied, many times. But every time I tried to push too hard, I would get migraines, severe ones. I was told trauma can block memory. Pamela nodded slowly. But now, Patrick looked at her. Now I'm not sure if it was just trauma. Pamela's heart skipped. You think someone hid something? He didn't answer directly. Instead, he walked back to his desk and opened another drawer. He brought out a small file. What's that? Pamela asked. My adoption papers. Pamela stepped closer. Patrick opened the file and placed it on the desk between them. Pamela scanned quickly. Everything looked official. Stamped, signed, but then she noticed something. Patrick? He looked up. This date, she said slowly. The date he adopted you. What about it? It's only 3 months after the accident. Patrick's eyes narrowed. Pamela continued. So, in just 3 months, he found you, processed legal documents, and adopted you fully? Patrick's silence said enough. Pamela shook her head. That's too fast. Patrick exhaled slowly. There's more. Pamela looked at him, nervous now. What? The farmer who supposedly rescued me. He paused. I tried to visit him 5 years ago, and he was dead. Pamela's heart dropped. Dead how? Patrick's voice became cold. House fire. The word echoed. Fire. Bus fire. House fire. That's not coincidence, she whispered. Patrick didn't disagree. Silence filled the room again. Then Pamela asked the question she had been avoiding. Patrick, what if the accident wasn't an accident? Patrick looked at her slowly. That's impossible. Is it? Pamela's voice grew stronger. You're now the head of one of the biggest tech companies in Africa. You handle contracts worth billions. What if someone needed you alive? Patrick stared at her. Alive? Yes. What if someone planned everything? That's too much, Pamela. Is it? She repeated. Patrick ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. You're saying someone killed our parents on purpose? Burned the bus? Took me? Raised me? I'm saying, Pamela replied softly, we don't know the truth. There was a long pause. Patrick suddenly laughed once, dry and short. On your first day at work, you come to tell me I'm dead. Pamela gave a weak smile. Trust me, this isn't how I imagined my employment story either. That small shared moment softened the air slightly, but it didn't remove the fear. Patrick sat down again. Pamela, he said carefully, if someone sent this envelope, it means they know. Know what? That I'm starting to remember. Pamela felt panic rise in her chest. What are you going to do? Patrick looked at her with a seriousness she hadn't seen before. I'm going to find out who Chief Daniel Lawson really was. Pamela blinked. You don't trust him? Patrick's voice lowered. I trusted him with my life. He paused. But I never asked who benefited the most from adopting a boy with no memory. Pamela felt dizzy. You think he used you? I don't know. He stood up suddenly. But I'm done living in half-truths. Pamela stepped closer to him. You're not alone anymore, she said softly. Patrick looked at her. For the first time since they reunited, he smiled slightly. A small, broken smile. My twin sister, he whispered, like he was testing the words. Pamela's eyes filled again. Yes, he nodded slowly. Then we investigate together. Pamela took a deep breath. Where do we start? Patrick looked toward the shelf behind his desk. There was a framed photo of him and Chief Lawson at a charity gala. He walked toward it, stared at it carefully. Then he said something that made Pamela's stomach twist again. There was one person who hated that I became CEO. Pamela's eyes widened. Who? Patrick turned slowly toward her. Chief Lawson's younger brother. Pamela's heart pounded. What's his name? Patrick's voice dropped to a whisper. Victor Lawson. Pamela felt her pulse in her ears. Where is he now? Patrick's jaw tightened. He owns a rival tech firm in Abuja. There was silence. Then Pamela asked the question neither of them wanted to say out loud. Do you think he knows you're not really his nephew? Patrick didn't answer immediately. Instead, his phone vibrated sharply on the desk. Both of them jumped. Patrick looked at the screen. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. Hello? There was silence on the other end. Then a distorted voice spoke slowly. You should have stayed dead. Patrick's face went pale. Pamela grabbed the edge of the desk. The voice continued. Curiosity will finish what the fire started. The line went dead. Patrick lowered the phone slowly. Pamela's voice shook. What did they say? Patrick looked at her and whispered, They know you're here. The office suddenly felt unsafe, too exposed. Pamela's voice was barely steady. Patrick. Yes? What if this isn't about the past? She swallowed hard. What if someone is watching us right now? Patrick slowly turned his head toward the glass walls of the office. Outside, staff were moving normally, typing, talking, working. But now, it felt different. like eyes were hidden among them. Patrick's voice became firm again. "Pamela," he said quietly. "Yes? Welcome to Patrick Technologies." He paused. "Your first assignment just changed." Pamela's chest tightened. "What assignment?" He looked at her with a serious, almost dangerous calm. "Find out who tried to kill me the first time." The night air in Ikoyi felt different, too quiet. Patrick's black SUV rolled through the tall gates of his mansion slowly. Security lights flicked on one by one. Pamela stared out the window at the large white building. "This is where you live?" she asked softly. Patrick gave a small nod. "Yeah." It still feels strange to say that. The car stopped. The driver stepped out quickly to open the door. Patrick raised a hand. "It's fine. You can go." The driver hesitated. "Sir?" "I said it's fine." The driver nodded and left. Pamela stepped out slowly. The mansion looked expensive, but empty. Not warm, not like home. Inside, the living room was spotless. Marble floors, glass tables, art on the wall, but it felt cold. Patrick loosened his tie and dropped it on the sofa. "I don't trust the office tonight," he said. Pamela hugged herself lightly. "Do you trust here?" He looked around. "I'm not sure." There was a pause. Then Pamela spoke carefully. "Patrick." He looked at her. "If we're going to investigate, we need proof." "Proof of what?" "That we're really twins." Patrick blinked. "You still doubt it?" She shook her head quickly. "No, I don't doubt it. We need something solid, something no one can argue with." Patrick's eyes narrowed slightly. Pamela nodded. "Yes." He walked toward the kitchen counter and poured 2 glasses of water. His hands were steady, but his mind clearly wasn't. "You think someone would fake that too?" he asked. "I don't know what to think anymore," Pamela admitted. She took the glass from him. "But if we're about to face powerful people, we need facts." Patrick stared at her, then slowly nodded. "Okay." There was silence again. Pamela looked around the large living room. "Does anyone else live here?" "No," Patrick replied. "Just staff during the day. I prefer being alone at night." She gave him a sad smile. "You've been alone for 10 years. He didn't reply to that. Instead, he walked toward a cabinet and pulled out a small safe. Pamela frowned. "What's in there?" Patrick hesitated. "Chief Lawson's personal documents." Her heart skipped. "You kept them?" "Yes." "Why?" He paused. "I don't know. Something always told me not to throw them away." Pamela moved closer. Patrick unlocked the safe. Inside were files, sealed envelopes, an old gold watch, and a leather notebook. He picked up the notebook slowly. This belonged to him. Pamela leaned in. "Open it." Patrick hesitated, then flipped the first page. Blank. Second page. Blank. He frowned. "This makes no sense." Pamela reached gently for it. "Let me see." She turned a few pages quickly. All blank. But then she stopped. "Wait." Patrick looked at her. "What?" She tilted the notebook toward the light. "There's something here." Very faint writing. Almost invisible. Patrick moved quickly and switched on a brighter lamp. Under strong light, words slowly appeared, like they were written with invisible ink. Patrick's breath slowed. "What does it say?" he asked. Pamela leaned closer. Her voice trembled slightly as she read, "Project Phoenix Phase 1 successful." Patrick's stomach tightened. "Project? What?" Pamela flipped the page. More faint words. Subject responsive. Memory suppressed. Transfer completed. The room felt colder. Patrick whispered, "Subject?" Pamela looked at him slowly. That's you. He shook his head. No, no. Pamela turned another page. Guardian eliminated. Patrick froze. Eliminated? Pamela swallowed hard. Patrick, the farmer. His chest tightened. The house fire. The farmer's death. Patrick stepped back slowly, like the floor had shifted. This can't be real. Pamela's hands were shaking now. She flipped another page. Victor aware. Both of them went silent. Victor, Chief Lawson's brother. Pamela looked up slowly. Patrick. He didn't blink. What if you weren't adopted? Silence. What if you were selected? Patrick's breathing became uneven. For what? Pamela's voice dropped. To replace someone. A long pause. Patrick ran his hands through his hair aggressively. This is crazy. Is it? Pamela asked softly. You survived a fire, lost your memory. A billionaire adopts you within months, raises you, makes you heir, then dies. Patrick turned sharply. You're saying I was groomed? I'm saying, Pamela whispered, someone needed you in that position. The air felt heavy. Patrick walked toward the window again. The lights of Lagos blinked far below. Project Phoenix, he muttered. Pamela closed the notebook slowly. What if the accident was planned to remove our parents? Patrick turned. Why would anyone target us? We were just teenagers. Pamela's eyes filled again. Maybe our parents weren't just ordinary. Patrick stared at her. What are you saying? Mum used to argue with Dad at night, she said slowly, about something big, something dangerous. I was young. I didn't understand. Patrick's head snapped toward her. You never told me this. You died before I could, she whispered. There was silence. Then a sudden loud bang echoed from outside. Both of them jumped. Patrick grabbed Pamela's wrist instinctively. Stay behind me. Another bang. Glass shattered somewhere downstairs. Pamela's heart pounded violently. Patrick, quiet. He moved slowly toward the hallway. Footsteps, heavy ones, inside the house. Patrick's voice was low and controlled. Someone's here, Pamela whispered. Call security. Patrick pulled out his phone. No signal. He frowned. No network. Another crash. The sound of something falling. Pamela felt her legs weaken. Patrick, this is not coincidence. He nodded slowly. They didn't want us reading that notebook. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the hallway wall. Pamela gasped softly. Patrick grabbed a heavy metal ornament from a table. The footsteps got closer, then stopped. Silence. Complete silence. Pamela's breath was loud in her own ears. Patrick whispered, Whoever you are, leave now. No answer. Then a voice from the dark, calm, mocking. You should have stayed dead, Patrick. Pamela's eyes widened. It was the same distorted tone from the phone. Patrick stepped forward. Show yourself. The voice laughed lightly. You really don't remember, do you? Pamela's grip tightened on Patrick's sleeve. Remember what? Patrick demanded. The voice responded slowly. Why your parents had to die. Pamela felt her heart break inside her chest. No. Patrick's jaw clenched. Who are you? A pausa. Then the lights went out. Total darkness. Pamela screamed softly. Patrick reached for her. Stay with me. Footsteps rushed past them. Fast. Then a door slammed. Seconds later, the backup generator kicked in. Lights flickered back on. Silence. Patrick ran toward the entrance. The main door was wide open. Cold night air rushed in. Outside, no one. Just empty driveway. Pamela stood frozen. Patrick. He looked down at the floor near the door. There was something lying there. A small envelope. Another one. Patrick picked it up slowly. His hands were steady now. Too steady. Pamela whispered, "Don't open it." But he already had. Inside was a single photograph. Old, burnt edges. It showed 3 people standing together. Their parents and a man standing beside them. Patrick's eyes narrowed. That's Chief Lawson. Pamela felt dizzy. He knew our parents. Patrick turned the photo over. Behind it, written clearly, Phase 2 begins. Pamela's throat went dry. What does Phase 2 mean? Patrick looked at her slowly. His voice came out cold. It means the game isn't over. He folded the picture carefully and whispered, "It just restarted." Outside, somewhere far down the quiet Ikoyi street, a black car engine started and drove away. Patrick did not sleep that night. Neither did Pamela. They sat in the living room with the notebook, the photographs, and the broken glass still on the floor. Morning light slowly entered through the wide windows of the Ikoyi mansion. It felt like a new day, but it wasn't. Patrick looked at the photo again. "Our parents knew Chief Lawson," he said quietly. Pamela nodded slowly. "I remember now," she whispered. "Dad once said he was working on something big, a software system. Something about secure national data." Patrick's head lifted sharply. "Secure national data?" "Yes," Pamela said, thinking hard. "Dad was a programmer before the accident. Mum handled accounts for his small tech startup." Patrick's chest tightened. "So they weren't just ordinary people?" "No," Pamela replied. "They were building something." Patrick stood up suddenly. "And if Chief Lawson wanted that technology..." Pamela finished the sentence in a whisper. "He would need Dad out of the way." Silence fell heavily between them. Patrick ran his hand across his face. "Project Phoenix," he said slowly. "Phase 1 successful. Subject responsive. Memory suppressed." Pamela swallowed. "You were the subject." Patrick nodded once. "They erased my memory, raised me under their control, groomed me to take over the company. And when Chief Lawson died," Pamela added softly, "you became CEO, exactly where they wanted you." Patrick looked at her. "But why keep me alive?" Pamela's voice broke slightly. "Because you were brilliant, like Dad." The realization hurt. Patrick grabbed his phone. "This ends today." "Where are you going?" Pamela asked quickly. "To Abuja." "Victor Lawson?" "Yes." Pamela stood up. "I'm coming with you." He hesitated. "It could be dangerous." She stepped closer. "We already survived a fire once." Patrick stared at her for a moment, then nodded. Hours later in Abuja, Victor Lawson's office tower was tall and intimidating. Inside his glass office, Victor stood waiting, older than Patrick. Sharper eyes, calm smile. "Patrick?" Victor said smoothly. "To what do I owe this visit?" Patrick placed the photograph on the desk. "You knew my parents." Victor's smile didn't disappear. "I know many people." Pamela stepped forward. "You killed them." The room went still. Victor sighed lightly. "Careful with accusations." Patrick's voice hardened. "Project Phoenix." For the first time, Victor's eyes flickered, just slightly. Patrick continued. "You needed my father's software. He refused to sell. The bus accident wasn't random." Victor leaned back in his chair. "You can't prove that." Patrick stepped closer. "No, but I can expose you." Victor's jaw tightened. "You think people will believe a memory loss story?" Patrick's voice grew steady. "I don't need them to believe it. I need investigators to look." Victor stared at Patrick for a long moment. Then he smiled again. You've grown. Patrick didn't smile back. And you've lost. Victor's calm mask cracked slightly. You were supposed to be controllable, he muttered. Pamela felt her heart race. Patrick whispered, Thank you for confirming. Victor realized too late. Security entered the room. Not Victor's security. Federal investigators. Patrick had already submitted the notebook scans that morning. Victor stood frozen as officers approached him. This isn't over, Victor hissed quietly. Patrick looked at him steadily. It is for you. The investigation went public. Hidden contracts, financial manipulation, evidence of the staged accident. Victor Lawson was arrested. Chief Lawson's reputation collapsed. And Patrick stood at a press conference beside Pamela. Cameras flashed. My name is Patrick Adeyemi, he said clearly. And 10 years ago, my family was destroyed for greed. Pamela squeezed his hand. But today, he continued, we rebuild. Patrick Technologies was restructured. This time, honestly, Pamela officially became co-CEO. Together, they expanded the company ethically across Africa. But more importantly, they rebuilt their family. One evening, back in Ikoyi, Patrick looked at Pamela and said quietly, They tried to burn my past. Pamela smiled gently. But truth doesn't burn. He nodded. And neither do we. Moral lessons. 1. The truth may be buried, but it always finds a way back to the light. 2. Greed destroys, but integrity rebuilds. 3. Family bonds are stronger than manipulation and lies. 4. Even when your identity is taken from you, you can reclaim it. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, comment, share and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories like this.